Oh, what? So then if I just go multi-speaker, it will just be me and Sue. Oh no, I've only got you, Sue. How do I get me and...
Let me get rid of me.
And then do I just have to pin Karen?
Yeah, pin Karen.
And then pin me?
Yeah.
Oh God, you are amazing. I didn't even know how to do that, Karen. So, thank you.
I can't
Yay.
stay for long, but I'll stay as long as I can.
No. Your dogs as well. It is relevant to some canine aspects, particularly like leaky gut, like, and humans as well, like leaky gut stuff. So although we're talking, you know, fecal water syndrome, it is applicable to some dogs, especially like the herbs that we're going to talk about as well.
Yeah. Well, I just thought it's general knowledge as well.
Yeah. And weirdly, what I came up with, I'll go through it during the consultation, but what I came up with was super interesting. And there was a little bit, well, it was mostly built around IBS actually. And I used to have irritable bowel when I was in my late teens, early 20s. I haven't had it since. And then this morning I woke up with cramping in my tummy.
Oh,
Definitely IBS. Definitely related somewhere.
Mm.
So everybody who's here, if you can all give Karen a wave. This is Karen. So Karen got in touch with me literally 3 days ago, and she wanted to join Herbal Shenanigans and have a consultation, but we kind of worked through it. So I said, look, we'll do the consultation at a reduced price, but I wanted to offer it out here to everybody. So I literally offered it out to everybody. And I was just saying to Karen, we had over 50 people subscribe in less than 24 hours. So the sad fact is, I think that says more about the fact that equine fecal water syndrome is on the increase and it's becoming increasingly unmanageable than it does about, you know, the numbers on my group specifically. So I did a consultation, a very last minute consultation. So yeah, do speak in the chat. I'm not going to answer any questions until right at the end though, because otherwise I get super distracted, like my brain can't cope. So I did a consultation, and my consultations take the form of animal communication, and then I undertake some shamanic energetic work, which I will guide you through. And then, like we're going to do here now, is like a small consultation on some of the herbal stuff. A lot of you here will already know how to take consultations. So I am literally just going to briefly run through the quick consultation just so you know about this particular horse. So this particular horse is called Paddy. I haven't got a picture of him. Sorry, it's on my email. I didn't download it. I'll download one and add it to the Facebook group at the end. So he's Paddy. He belongs to Karen and he's 15 years old. But I'm just going to ask Karen to give you like a very brief history of him. So everyone say hello to Karen, and Karen, just take it away. Just give us like your reason for wanting a session and what you hope to achieve really for him.
Okay. Hi. I've had Paddy for 8 years now. I was told he was brought over from Ireland and backed over here, but it might be something different. And probably a couple of months after me getting him, he started with fecal water issues. And I couldn't understand because I was giving him just herbs and a clean feed of just hay cobs, and he was just getting worse and worse and worse. So then I joined the Fecal Water Syndrome Facebook group, and a lot were saying it could be down just to hay. So lucky enough, my neighbour is my hay provider. So he swaps them around for me. But I do find hay is more of a trigger than anything else. So I've been fighting this for 8 years now. And I've tried so many different practitioners, and they've come to a conclusion that they can't actually help me any further with their recommendations, because sometimes their recommendations made him worse, and they've never had a horse where his symptoms have actually got worse and not got better. So this is why I contacted Rachel, because I do believe in the herbal side of it, where they know how to self-select, but I need to know the combination of the herbs, which is going to be appropriate for this, because I do offer him herbs and he takes them, but am I offering him the right herbs to help fix this problem? Because the last few days he's been selecting peppermint. Now he's refusing it. He's got to a point where he doesn't need it. Seaweed, and he doesn't need it, but he does take a lot of wheatgrass, barley grass, chamomile. He's not too keen on the marshmallow root, and this is the reason why I've come to Rachel, just to see and also join Herbal Shenanigans to help maintain so it doesn't actually come back. He has been going out for herbal walks, and he's mainly going for the common hogweed. He's really seeking that out, and cleavers.
Okay, good.
And a bit of ivy.
Oh, and ivy too. Okay.
Mm.
He's not metabolic, is he? He's not.
Well, it's funny. I wondered whether he started getting fat pads, and I did have a blood test, and the blood test came back as it was. The vet said there was nothing to worry about, but I was concerned that the amount of fat that he was putting on. So he doesn't slow feed hay nets and that now, but I've never had him confirmed as metabolic.
Okay. But he has got some fat pads, and you feel like looking at him.
Yeah,
Demeanor.
his crest is nice and wobbly. He hasn't got any fat pads over his crest, but it's more over his rib cage where I can feel a couple of fat pads either side.
Okay. What's his energy like, Karen? Is he a bit sluggish and metabolic-y?
Yeah. I can get his energy up when I'm playing with him in the school, but he's quite happy to mosey along if he wants more than anything else.
No, I got that. So I did have a question mark over metabolic stuff. I'll tell you why I had that question mark when I get to the end, when I go through the herbs, because it kind of links the two together.
Yeah.
What's his workload like? Like, how often is he being worked, even if it's just out in hands, or what kind of stuff are you doing with him?
It's mainly, well, because of his gut issues, I think I don't really do any schooling. I do a bit on the ground. Because, I went through Pirelli and doing all the natural horsemanship. So just to help his posture, but then it's mainly hacking that I do with him. And that's, I've only just started because he's been really bad over the winter with his fecal water. And I just felt like as if I couldn't work him. And the lady that did the hair analysis from it, she does it through dowsing, and she said he's telling me that he's not ready to be worked. So but I'm thinking all these years that I've actually stopped not doing anything with him, and he's 15. He needs to start doing a bit. So I have now started hacking, which is his favourite thing anyway, because he can go out in the heat and edges.
How often are you hacking? Just once or twice a week?
Yeah, 2-3 times a week.
Cool. Okay. And what about any lameness, or is he unsound now? That's a horrible thing. You're hacking.
Yeah, no, he's fine. Yeah.
Okay. You did mention when we met, just for everybody else out there, that before you got him, did he jump a 5-bar gate or jump a?
Oh no, it was here. He was in the school and he just decided to jump out. My other half was lunging him, and I don't. But then all of a sudden he got away from him and he just decided. I don't know whether he's not here to hear this, but I think he might have put a bit of too much pressure on him, and then he just left and he actually landed on concrete, and I'm sure it probably would have been his left shoulder that he was a bit lame on. So I red lighted him for a few days and he was fine.
Okay. And his teeth are all good?
Yeah, he's due to have them done in a couple of weeks' time.
Okay. And is he barefoot or has he got shoes?
Barefoot.
And they've always been all right to manage?
Yeah, he has had seedy toe, but now I've actually got it under control and it is actually growing out now.
Okay. Is he on any medications?
No.
None?
No, I wouldn't go down the vet route with him.
Okay, no, that's cool. And has he ever had any in the past that you know of? Because I know you've only had him for 8 years.
Yeah, not with me, no. They one time they gave me Butte thinking he had cellulitis, but I didn't give it to him. I actually did red lighting instead.
Okay. What made them think he had cellulitis?
Well, I just think they were just being a bit. He had a swollen. It was from the knee down to the fetlock. He had swelling, and they said just like to be cautious. Let's give him Butte. But then I'll just put it in the cupboard.
I love people like you. So his energy levels are okay, but you do think he's a bit sluggish and a bit slow?
Yeah, he can be. He doesn't play as much with my other one as he used to. They do like head conkers and that sort of thing, but they don't run around like they normally do.
Okay. How old is your other one? Are they the same age?
No, he's 21.
Oh, he's
but
older.
yeah, but he acts like a 5-year-old a lot of time.
Nice. And what's his appetite like? Is he all right? He's happy?
Yes, yeah. No problem with that.
All right, now here's the big question. Is he on any supplements?
The supplements he has is the herbs, and I only offer them to him. I won't put them in his bucket of feed.
Okay. So he's on barley grass, wheatgrass.
Yeah, chamomile.
Chamomile.
Yeah, he was taking peppermint, seaweed. I did offer marshmallow root, but he wasn't interested in that.
Okay. Cool. That's good. And what about, has he ever had any like chiro, physio, anything like
He
that?
has oh God, what's it called? It's gone out of my head. Well, I do the red light therapy with him, so
Okay.
that helps keep his body balanced, and also he has Masterston once a month.
Okay. And is anything flagged up on the Masterson?
Not really. There is a round his fascic joints behind his saddle. He is a bit tight there. I did have the chiropractic vet out, and he said he could possibly be arthritic around that area.
Okay.
But he didn't find too much wrong with him either.
Okay, cool. That's good. So he has Masterson once a month and then anything else and the red light therapy as and when. Okay.
Yeah.
What's his behaviour like? Is he a good boy? I know he's a good boy.
Yeah. He's cheeky, but he's good. I like him being cheeky.
Yeah, he's lovely actually. He had a really, really lovely way about him. What about his vaccinations? Has he ever had any?
Yes, yeah. Only because I take him out to clinics and so that.
So he's on a 6-month vaccination?
No, I do him once a year.
Yearly. Okay.
Yeah.
And what about deworming?
Herbal.
Okay.
And because the way I keep him, the vets are now recommending for me not to worm anyway, use chemical wormers.
Okay. Oh, that's good. Well done. How often are you doing that? Once a month or just as and when?
Every 3 months. I just use the Vermex.
Okay. Oh, well done. That's good. I like that. That's all I need to know. That doesn't really tell me any more than what I've already gone in and identified, which is actually quite good. Let me just reduce in size what I've done. So I'm actually going to share just a quick, if I can share it. Don't know if I can. I've literally just gone onto a website because I wanted you to look at the structural aspects of it. So keep this in your mind, folks. Just because the equine digestive system fits completely differently as it would inside the human body. So while I'm talking human anatomy, it's slightly different. But all I want you guys to just think about, just while I'm reading through the communication and the energetic stuff, is literally like, of course, we go into the stomach. So we go down the esophagus and we go straight into the stomach. That the small intestines are there following, and that's followed by the cecum and then the large intestines. So what's really important to note on this particular case is that the small intestines are normally predominantly on the left-hand side of a horse, and the cecum and the large intestines are normally predominantly on the right-hand side of a horse. Now, we all know that when we're talking about a human, we literally go up, across and down, and then all the small intestines are in the middle. And we know that with horses, that's not the case. Like literally you just throw the junk inside and it sort of works its way around into some sort of pattern, apparently. I'm not ever sure whether that is the case or there may be some structure there. Everybody who opens horses up says no, they're all like slightly different. I don't know, but it is worth noting that that's the simplest form that you can get of their digestive system. So it's literally esophagus, stomach, small intestines, large intestines. But the reason for me having or knowing, or you guys knowing, that the small intestines are on the left and the large is on the right, because of some of the structural stuff that came through. So energetically, Karen, this guy, your boy, comes through as being very, very solid in personality. He's an incredibly grounded horse, really, really grounded and super steadfast. Like there isn't much that phases him, I have to say. I would class him as a typical Irish. Like he's a typical Irish. He's prone to a little bit of excitement, but actually he's just a joy to be around. There's absolutely no malice in him whatsoever. He doesn't do anything nasty to anybody, I don't think. He is, however, very determined, and regardless of if you're just hacking with him, he doesn't mind. He doesn't care if you go for a walk in hand or if you go for a hack. He'll just do it willingly, like he's super, super happy to do it. So physically, let me see if I can get a picture of him. Give me 2 seconds, because I think it'll be really interesting to share it with you. Let me just open up my emails, because he does have ear plaques, doesn't he? Has he had them always?
Yeah, ever since I had him. Yeah. It's only on the right ear.
Ah, yes, that's what I noticed. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to download this picture of him. Give me 2 shakes, because it's super, super, super significant. Right.
I should have mentioned as well, sometimes when I'm working him on a circle, he does have trouble coming through on the right hind, which is where his cecum is. And when his gut is really out of sorts, he has trouble coming through.
I can definitely sense that. It'll make sense when you see some of the structural stuff.
Yeah.
I'm just finding his picture. There it is. There we go. Right. Last one, 2. Bear with me. Just got to share it again. Sorry, I should have downloaded it to start with, but I didn't. There we go. So for all the structural people, can you actually see? Yeah, there we go. You can actually see structurally, looking at him. You can see his eyes are not straight. I know we're going completely off piste from fecal water syndrome, sorry. His eyes are not level and his nose is not level. And he's had these plaques, he said, ever since you've got him.
Yeah.
So the plaques to me are quite significant. The plaques always say to me that there's a digestive something or other going on, always, regardless of whether it's a horse or a dog or a human. If you get stuff in the ears, it is always, always, always suggestive that there is something going on. But when I tapped into him, actually, he's like, do you know what? I'm just not bothered. He's not bothered by, they don't itch, they're not painful. The only thing that slightly bothers him about them is the weight of them. He says that that one is heavier. So when he's doing any work and it flops around, it's almost like the weight of having an additional like weight in his head. So he did notice that as being like significant but not problematic. He also went on to mention about his headbands. It is or has caused in the past some kind of pressure, and can you loosen it off and make it wider? So then I kind of got the image and put the image into my head, his head, of undoing the cheek bits to make more room. And he was like, no, it's not the cheek pieces, it's definitely the brow band behind the ears.
Right.
And then he showed me a picture of a really nice padded one that was close up and abutted to the back of his ears, which normally if you've got a horse with ear plaques, they're quite sensitive and they don't like anything actually touching the ears. But he says no, he prefers it because it gives his head some stability.
All right.
So bear that in mind. I don't know what headband he's got at the moment, but a padded one that goes close up to the back of the ears might be beneficial. Yeah,
Well, it's typical, isn't it? Because I brought a quantum bridle, which actually takes the pressure away from the ears, but he wants one that okay.
Yeah, so it's like it's been really close at the back. Oh no, I hate it. I hate it when I say things. People have gone out and brought things with, you know, the best intentions, and that would have been my assumption as well. But when he said no, he likes the support because it's not the plaques that are the problem, it's the weight. So having
Right.
something at the back just to support them from not moving around so much would be beneficial.
Could that be then when I'm riding him, and if I'm doing some schooling, after a little while he starts shaking his head, like as if he's got a bit of, like as if his head shaking, but he's not a head shaker. I just wonder whether it's got anything to do with that ear plaque then.
It was the first thing that came up.
Right.
I haven't asked him specifically about under saddle or the head shaking, other than he said when there is a headband behind his ears, it gives his head extra support.
Right.
And that he was feeling it without support. So, but it could be a weighty thing. I mean, when I do these sorts of things, I kind of imagine that I am a horse, so I can feel what it's like to have ears on top of my head and to have one slightly heavier than the other. And that could explain why he's got the dysfunction or the misalignment, certainly in his head, that you can see his nose is not quite aligned and his eyes are definitely not aligned. I suspect once you get into the cranium up here, you'll probably find that there's some big rebalancing to do as well. But you're never going to be able to rebalance a horse when you've got other stuff going on, particularly digestive stuff. You can temporarily, but it's always going to pull it back out again, which we'll get to in a minute. Okay. I didn't ask you what his skin was like because it was flagged up that the transition between old coat and new coat, not the new coat coming out, not the old coat going out, but the new coat coming in, so that it feels like pinpricks, but not like a pin, like a sewing needle pin, more like cactus hairs. Got the impression of cactus hairs. But he says it's not itchy, but it does get hot. Like it gets like, has anyone ever got like prickly heat before?
Yeah.
Like that kind of prickly heat kind of sensitivity. So I don't know if he's had any problems transitioning into growing in a new coat, but you'll know. If not, it might just be something that he just needs cooling down. He just said it just needs cooling down to get rid of it. So
right, okay.
He also went on to say his teeth and tongue were all good, no problems at all. Then he flagged up that he has a restriction in C3, and that is linked to the TMJ on his left side. So again, like for all the structural people, like bear in mind all this structural stuff that I'm flagging up because it's so related to fecal water syndrome.
Right.
So this was flagged up between C3 and the TMJ. It's not unusual to have a chain like that works. Then we went on to his left shoulder, pectorals underneath his scapula. There's a small muscle knot. And then he goes on to say his left shoulder has damage in the past. He says it was careering into or over a fence or gate, but doesn't say more than that. But he also said he was under saddle prior to you owning him. So my feeling is he's also gone careering into a different gate, not just the one that he did while your husband was lunging him, but perhaps under saddle with somebody else. And he says he's noticing the stiffness with age and to keep an eye out for any arthritic changes, which is funny because we just talked about that before we met him. And then he has structurally, again, he's got uneven shoulders with, or from the withers, from the left shoulder to thoracic 6. Said it's not saddle related, but he could do with a good wither shake or a release of the shoulders and the withers. So that might be something your Masterson person will know about. Ask them about a wither shake, because there's a lot of fascial restriction that's calling it in there. Then we went on from thoracic 6 to his pelvis on his left side, again, is forward. So his left pelvis is rotated forward. He got really a little bit worried when I started talking about his pelvis, because I was asking about internal structures, and he did start getting worried. He didn't want to reveal too much because he's concerned that he's a little bit broken and too much for you, which I did reiterate was not the case. But he said he's also concerned for you because of everything you've done and all that you do, and he's a bit worried that he's too much of a burden for you. So you might need to just go and reassure him.
Yeah.
But I thought that was, you know, such a sweet thing to say. But then I managed to talk him out of it, and we went back to the left hip again. And so everything on the left-hand side of your horse is shifted forward. Like everything, left-hand side is shifted forward. So that's like completely on the horizontal plane. Like everything on the left side is shifted forward. And there was some indication that there was a concertina going on the rib cage. So he's sort of almost like this, but it's all forward as opposed to being in a C shape. It's definitely forward. And that makes complete sense when you look at the gut and where the small intestines are and where the large intestines are. So the small intestines will be on that left-hand side, and they are a little bit contracted, but I'll go into that when we do the fecal water stuff. So it's all related to what's going on internally. And as I mentioned, he's reluctant to go into any more about the hind end, about the pelvis stuff. He was just like, no, don't want to talk about it. So I was like, okay, we won't do that, because I feel that once we start working with the gut, it's all going to start unwinding and falling into place anyway. I mentioned his mouth and actually his stomach are fine. There is not an issue with his stomach at all, which I was really pleased about. But then I went and asked about the small intestines, and this is where I felt really disgusting. So there's loads and loads of mucus within his small intestines. Now, the reason I know that is because I can see it and I can feel it. And has anybody watched Harry Potter? Like when you watch Harry Potter, and there's a bit in, I don't know which one it was, but where Ron and Harry are sitting in Hagrid's house and he's eating slugs. He's throwing up slugs, and it made me feel like that, like mucusy and horrible. So there's some good news and some bad news. So as the food is passing out of the stomach, it's reaching like this thick mucusy disgustingness. It's quite disgusting in the small intestines, and it's making digestion in the small intestines problematic. Now, for a horse, that's not too bad because most of their digestion actually goes on in the hindgut. So it is a problem, but it's not as big a problem as you would find if it was a hindgut issue. And there is some hindgut stuff going on. But anyway, so the food is not much broken down as it should be. But in addition to the mucus, there is an additional thin layer of a biofilm. I have never energetically picked up before a biofilm except in your horse. And it was like a wet cling film had been wrapped around the mucosa with his tissue state. So I could really sense that there's a definite, without doubt, 98% probability that he's got a biofilm going on in there that is not doing him any good. And I think that's why you've been really struggling, because it doesn't matter what you do, unless you break down this biofilm, he's just not going to be able to break through with it. So it's probably best that I explain, like, the thick mucousy stuff. Like, anybody who's had IBD will know that you get a mucus that like wraps itself around your poo and stuff like that, and that is a way that the intestines protect itself. So it can be a good thing, because it stops whatever's being digested from interacting with the tissue, which is problematic because there's an issue there and a dysfunction. So that mucus is produced as a way to protect the integrity of the tissue to some extent. If you've also got a biofilm that is underneath that mucus, there's no way that the food that is going in can be digested, like, because it has no interaction with the tissue at all. It's just like got this mucus to work through, and now it's got like an additional biofilm to work through. So that's all going on in his small intestines, which I was quite surprised about, actually. So it's impossible for any of the activity of digestion to commence because of that physical barrier that's going on in there. And it is white, it's frothy, it's sticky, it's glutinous. And then I just mentioned about Harry Potter and slugs again. So the primary action of everything that we do past this point is to break down that biofilm. Once we break down that biofilm, we can start working on some of the other stuff. So then I went in and had a look at the tissue itself, the integrity of the tissue in the small intestine. And underneath that mucus, it is quite pocked and it is weak. So it's not as tight. Like, normally tissue should be quite tight. His is not tight, it's quite weak. I have to put a question mark over whether there was a worm burden issue at some point in his history. And again, I'm going to get to that in a minute, because I strongly got a sense of encysted worm at some point in his past. Like, the tissue, looking at the tissue, it looks like encysted worm. Whether that's in a horse that is alive and living or one that's passed away and been opened up, that's the impression you get, is like encysted worm. The integrity is completely compromised, and it's why the body is producing that mucus. So it's a form of self-protection. But the two are very distinctly separated. I need to say that as well. Like, the mucus that's being produced is separate from the biofilm. We're talking about two different structures, if you like, within the body. Now, I had an inkling that he had diverticulitis after I'd seen this. But it's so rare in horses, diverticulitis, and there's no diverticula apparently in the small intestines. So it could potentially be colitis, which is very similar, but it doesn't involve the same diverticular cells. But I'm not going to rule it out for him that he might also have diverticulitis. It just didn't sit right with me to say it was one or the other. But it could be. Given the propensity for colitis, it's more likely to be that, because, like I say, diverticulitis is just rare in horses, but it does happen. So I'm not saying it's not, and I'm not saying it is, but it's definitely one that we need to question mark. So he does show a picture of worms in the gut. So again, it's likely that that was the cause. We then had a chat and a look at the cecum. So as I mentioned, we go through to the cecum. It's less sticky. There's not so much mucus in there. However, there is still a very thin biofilm, but it's getting less, which is really good. So there is a biofilm in the cecum, but it's less. It is thinner, but it's still present. And the cecum is actually prone to inflammation, and it's not breathing as effectively as it would. So the cecum, as food goes into it and digests, it should expand and contract, like you would imagine the lungs to do. Expand and contract, expand, as it digests food and it passes food through into the large intestine. It's not doing that as effectively as it should, because there's inflammation there that's coming from the small intestine. So from my point of view, once you have a slightly inflamed cecum, that's what's causing the structural problems on the left-hand side. So it's almost like the cecum, I mean, it's huge, the cecum is also like ginormous. is what's pushing on the structures, and it's what's causing that left hind to push forward and the problems in the left shoulder as well. So it's almost like he's concertinaing himself on the left, but then on the right, everything is kind of expanded and pushing out. So you can visualize it as a C, sort of. And so that's what's going on in the cecum. And then, yeah, it's just not expanding properly as it should do. It's just not breathing properly. So it's working, but it's not working at its optimum. And then we went into the large intestines, which again, you know, we already know that there's a problem here. So we anticipate that there's going to be some problem in the large intestines. I have to say it's not as bad as it was in the small intestines either. There is another biofilm in there. It's present, again, it's not as strong as it is in the small intestines. And there is some mucus in there, but not as much again as there is in the small intestines, which is good. At this point, I was thinking, I wonder if he's got SIBO. Now, SIBO is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, but it's difficult to say. I think once we work with the biofilm and start reducing that, it will become a little bit clearer. I didn't get a strong sense that there was a lot of nasty bacteria in the small intestines, but again, it's something that I have to vocalize as being my train of thought at this point. And also in his train of thought, because this is in the communication as well. So the interaction between food and the products of assimilation in the digestive system are obviously compromised by this point. And they're also being physically prevented from being assimilated into the digestive tract. So that probably explains why he goes through episodes of having really, really runny poos and then some that are quite well formed, because he's not assimilating all of that water into peristalsis and absorbing it back into the body. It has to come out. So when it all comes out, it's all ejected out. And then what follows is quite normal because the water's already been removed. And then when you have a normal one, the body will start filling up again with those products that have come through from the small intestines, and it won't be absorbed again. So it's like a cycle of absorption, not absorption, absorption, not absorption. So that's why you get some that are really firm and some that are just water and horrible. So there is stuff that's going on in the large intestines as well, but it is mostly to do with it not being reabsorbed because of this bloody biofilm that's in there. And it's all about like having a physical barrier to assimilation within the gut as well. So all of this, as if he hasn't got enough going on in the gut, means that the muscles associated with peristalsis, pushing the food through the gut, have become weak because he's not had to use them. So he's not using them effectively, which is why you've probably been told in the past that bulking laxatives are indicated because they firm up the stool and they initiate peristalsis. This is probably one of the few times where I don't think bulking laxatives are indicated at this stage. I think they will be later on, but not immediately, because we need to get rid of that biofilm and we need to dry up his system. So they'll probably come in a little bit later. So anyway, I then went on to talk about peristalsis and how it was weakened. And he also said, can I consider antispasmodics for the gut muscles of the thoracic cage because they're contracted a little bit, which is understandable given all that's going on. That's all he wanted to say about his tummy. He then went on to tell me about rug clips. Have you got a blue heavyweight rug at the front that is open, it's not opening, it wants extenders on it? Don't know whether you have a blue heavyweight rug. If not, that's what he's talking about. Because it might be adding to the shoulder misalignment.
Right.
And then he goes on to say he's actually a really, really happy boy. He loves his life. He considers it a privilege being your horse. He says,
the amount of money I've spent on him.
Sorry, Karen?
The amount of money I've spent on him, on the herbs and whatever else.
I know. Well, he does consider it a privilege, and he does feel blessed to be your horse. So,
nice.
Yeah, I thought that was really sweet.
Yeah.
And he stopped waking him up and come and have a lie down with him instead. Does he lie down a lot?
Not too much. Because they live out in my school 24/7. So sometimes I'll come out and he'll be laying down. When I first got him, I've never known a horse to lay down as much as he did. And I was thinking, is he a tired horse? But then I started changing his diet, and then he seemed better. But yeah, he doesn't lie down as much as he used to.
Okay, maybe he wants to again. But he'd like you to come and have a lie down with him, isn't he?
Oh, right, okay. I'm quite happy to do that.
Yeah, he said no turmeric, no devil's claw. Absolutely not. You can't give him either of those at all.
Sorry, can't give him, sorry.
Turmeric or
Right,
devil's claw.
okay.
Yeah, not at the moment anyway.
Yeah,
This is a 3-month picture, bear that in mind. So we're hoping that the
yeah,
herb fix can work. So it may be different in a few months, but for now, no turmeric, no devil's claw.
okay.
He actually
Yeah,
says your diet is right. The diet is right. And he knows that sugars are a contributing factor.
yeah.
He does also go on to say that sugars are not the problem, which you and I both know is not true. But he does go on to show me a treat and sugar lumps. So he wants the treats, hence why he's saying that sugar is not a problem. I disagree with that entirely. I did have a
I don't
conversation.
give him sugar.
I just kind of say, no, I think sugar is part of the problem. And he went, no, I like the treats. So you might have to find something that is sugar free. But he mentioned something about apple treats, like the concentrated. I don't even know what they're called. It's been years since I've had them in the UK, but they're like concentrated feed treats. And he was saying they're fine, apple flavoured ones.
All right, okay.
And then this was such a weird thing to say. He then goes on to say he wants to give you a big lick. And he's really eager to work and get started on the herbs and the forage. Very, very keen. Some herbs are indicated in food, and some he wants as a herbal water buffet. I don't know if you've ever given him a water buffet, but he said he wants to have a play with it. I don't think he's so concerned about the medicinal benefit of the herbs. He just wants to have a play.
I have done, because I've got your book. So, and I have done some water buffets, but neither of them have been interested in them.
He said he just wants to play with it. Like I say, it wasn't medicinal, it was just a play.
Yeah, he does like tipping the buckets over when I put them out there.
Yeah, it was very clear. He doesn't want the medicinal element from the herbal water buffet. It was just because he wants to play with them. So that's probably why. So there is a trigger for all this, which I mentioned right at the beginning, and it is rooted in the time before he was yours. So as soon as you told me that you brought him over from Ireland unbroken, that did set off a trigger alarm in my brain and like a little red flag, because I don't know many horses that would come over from Ireland unbroken, because financially it's not really viable unless they come over in a huge truckload of unbroken, 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds. To get an unbroken 6-year-old in Ireland is not only rare, it's highly improbable. So I did kind of we glossed over because he didn't want to go into too much detail, not because he is concerned about the trauma element, it's just because he's completely over it. Like, he's not a trauma horse at all. I wouldn't consider him to be a trauma horse, psychologically and emotionally, but I think he is physically, because of the damage that was done. So anyway, he goes on to say he does remember a time when he was really, really skinny and he was hammered a bit in Ireland. And he does remember having this worm burden. He was then found at a dealer's yard and somebody picked him up who had brown curly hair, and they kept him for 8 months and just recovered him. And he knew that he was going to be sold from there, and she kept him for 8 months and then he was sold to you. So that's the only thing about trauma that came through. There was nothing else. He said his life is really, really happy from that point onwards. He's not overly concerned. He does go on to say he doesn't suspect. No, I've written that down. He didn't actually want to go. Oh no, this is it. So when I said, okay, it's time to go now, he didn't want to go. I was like, no, come on, we've got to go. It's time to go. An hour, come on, hour's up. He just didn't want to go. So I don't know if he has more to say to somebody else. I don't know. But he's a super, super happy guy. And he snaps out of that trigger memory really, really quickly, which is why I know it's not an emotional, psychological thing with him. yeah, he just doesn't allow that trauma to affect him. So I had to hurry him up and to leave. But as a final comment, he said, just tell her that I love her. And he wants to give a big lick again. Is he licky?
He can be, yeah, especially after he's been like selecting barley grass.
Yeah, there was something quite like open about being licked all the time. So that was just the communication. So that's, you can see, like, it's taken me half an hour to tell it to you. Sorry, guys. So I'm hoping you can see how the structural stuff is related to what's going on internally.
Mm.
I do.
Oh, I've lost you. I lost
there
you.
you go.
You're back.
Yeah, no, sorry, we had like a momentary power cut, like a flip.
All right.
So that was how the communication impacts him and his gut. So we know he's got fecal water syndrome. That fecal water syndrome is definitely triggered by historical stuff, and I think it's triggered by worm burden. So I then went on to do some energetic stuff, which I'll run through with you. So he's got a really soft, fuzzy energy, actually. It's very pure, very simple. Like, he's a complete Irish. He's really pure, really simple. There's no complexities in his life. He's got no issues other than the digestive stuff going on. He's very, very open and welcoming, and he's super, super encouraging. Straight away, calendula with a 50-50, so 50 ratio of apple cider vinegar and water with calendula infused in it, is indicated for washing his ears twice a day as a minimum, So for those of you who don't know, I do some energetic work, I do some shamanic work, and I can't not do them with horses now. Or dogs, I just can't not do them. So they all come in regardless of whether we want them to or not. So my healing animal came in and cleaned everything away in this horse's ears, like properly chipping away at it for ages and ages and ages. But because it's all related to the gut, the more we were chipping away at it, the more it was just coming back. It was just like, just couldn't get rid of it. And then that's when the calendula and that apple cider vinegar came in as a diluted wash at least twice a day to do that. Because what's going on in the ears is also related to this biofield that's going on in the gut. So there's also like a biofield that is tracking its way up out into the ears. So that ear stuff that's going on is just a symptomatic profile of what's going on in the gut. And so it's going to have a similar biofield to what's going on in the small intestines as well. The skin and coat stuff was strange because you're saying he's not itchy, but he's definitely saying it's stuff. But what was recommended was another apple cider vinegar infused calendula and nettle wash. And again, that's 50-50 with water. I've got all this written down for you, Karen, so don't feel
Oh, right, okay. I don't need to write it down. Okay.
And then when we went into the mucus stuff, so my healing guide, sorry, my healing animal is a mole, and it goes into the body and it does whatever it needs to do. I'm kind of like just a viewer, a voyeur of what's going on. So he's gone into your horse's digestive system and he started like mopping up this floss that was like candy floss, like with the candy floss, you know, putting it on a stick, and then he started eating it, and then I felt really, really sick. So I was like, you can't do this. Like, I'm actually going to be sick if you keep doing this. So anyway, he stopped eating it and he handed it to a frog. Because why wouldn't you? Because frogs need mucus. So I'm thinking, oh my God, my life's getting like more and more bonkers the more my life goes on. It really is. So anyway, we've mopped up all of this mucus in the digestive tract, in the small intestines, and we've handed it to a frog who's eaten it. So then we went on and he's done a small tweak at C3 to the TMJ. It does need more work in the ordinary world, in your reality. Like, we can only undo so much energetically. So that, and there's loads of work there to do on fascial release. There's a huge fascial chain running down his left-hand side that is just restricted because of the inflammation that's going on the right-hand side as well, and the contraction within the small intestines that's going on as well. So then the shoulder and pelvis were stretched away from each other. So remember I said he's got like a shift forwards, but also the pelvis is coming in the shoulder back. So he is kind of like a C, but it's all forward, it's weird. So anyway, we've pulled those apart physically and manifested some space in that thoracic cage so that everything can just start breathing a little bit easier. The fascia is doing such a good job, which makes me think that the tissue is actually really, really healthy, which is what we want. But it's doing such a good job at just like pulling everything into that C shape. So if you can get a structural therapist down there to really open him up, I think that would be really beneficial.
Okay.
And to like open up and expand everything. So I made another note about the structure of the intestines being on the left and on the right hand side. So the biofield healing guide. Again, this is something slightly different. I only this last 3 weeks, I've had a shamanic Amazonian guy coming in. Like, he's completely faceless. I don't know who he is. But he came in and he was putting a dropper bottle all around the intestines. I don't know what was in the bottle. I didn't ask. He didn't tell me. But it was like oil dispersion. You know, when you get like liquid soap and you put it on water and it disperses, doesn't it? It was a bit like that on the biofilm. So we did that all over the biofilm to take it away. And that worked, which then got me thinking about the herbs that we could use in the real world to have that same effect. So we've got a list of those as well. So we did all of that. And then underneath, actually, the tissue itself was really pink and really healthy, which is great. It just was pockmarked and a little bit leaky in places. So, you know, we want to work definitely to start shoring up that tissue because it's healthy enough to do the job. So then he went in there again, and this is where it got really weird. If it's not weird enough yet, it gets even more weird. So then he took like a drying air system and went through the entire gastrointestinal tract to dry it out completely, like just air everywhere within this gastrointestinal tract. And then went in and he blew like an ash, like a bluey green ash through the entire gastrointestinal tract. I suspect this was either like a clay or a charcoal of some description. It was definitely from a fire, but whether it was the clay from the fire underneath mixed with charcoal, I don't know. But those two I would have thought are indicated, not initially, but certainly at the end of the journey, once the biofilm is gone, to really mop up any toxins that are left in the digestive tract. I don't recommend charcoal or green clay internally very often at all, but I think for this horse, at some point in the future, they're definitely going to be indicated. So he just blew like this blue-green ash everywhere. It was quite cool. And then just went in like a fine mist. So it was like as in a powder room. If you can imagine like a lady's powder room, his entire digestive tract was being powdered with this green clay ash kind of stuff. And in my head, again, it makes perfect sense given all of that mucus and the biofilm that's in there. So that's all we did energetically. We didn't do much, but that took about an hour to do all of that, because you can imagine the digestive tract is quite long.
Yeah.
Music's going. So then I went on to do the herbal bit, which is probably why a lot of you are here. So this is likely a chronic long-term case of gut dysfunction, with the result, the symptomatic profile being fecal water syndrome. I don't think fecal water syndrome is the disease. Like there's so many different things that can cause FWS, so many different things. But for him, in his specific case, I would put it down to being a trigger of worm burden on the digestive system, compromising it somewhere along the line with his health and being really skinny, and malabsorption at some point for those 10 months, whenever that was. That has led to, because of stress at the time, irritable bowel or colitis. That has then led to an accumulation of the mucus, like the body itself producing this mucus as a form of protection for the digestive tract. The downside is that that mucus has then led to a biofilm that's just covered the entire intestines. And again, I've flagged up small intestinal bacterial overgrowth because it could be. So I think stress was the contributing factor many years ago. I don't think it is now at all. I think he's got a really, really great life. But at the time it was. And because nobody knew what was going on, it's kind of been like a self-fulfilling prophecy. It just kept on protecting itself, protecting itself, protecting itself. And the result of all of that is fecal water syndrome. So what do we need to do? Like there are three main areas that you want to focus on. The first you can probably imagine is that biofilm disruptor. Like we need to disrupt that biofilm. We definitely need the action of putting oil and water to disrupt it and to get rid of it. The herbs that were indicated for him to do this was a weird one, which is why I asked you whether he was metabolic, because energetically, cinnamon was the first thing that came to my head. Now, cinnamon is not especially indicated as a biofilm disruptor, although it is one, but it is indicated for metabolic causes. So I think for him, it's like a double whammy, like you're getting the best of two actions. You're getting a blood sugar balancer and you're also getting a biofilm disruptor. So we're working with both of them at the same time. But also for him, specifically indicated were berberine herbs that contain berberine of some description. For him, it's probably Oregon grape, which is Mahonia aquifolium. So you can get that as a powder or as like a dried bark. It's a bark mostly that you get. So those were indicated specifically to him, along with rosemary, thyme. And those of you who know me know I love apple cider vinegar. And again, it came in really, really strongly for him, but only for 2 months. Like his cut-off point for apple cider vinegar use is 2 months, no more. Don't give him any more after that. It is literally just so that you can break down this biofilm that's in his gut. But for anybody else, you can also include any kind of berberis species. You can include hydrastis. Like there's quite a few berberine indicated herbs to break down biofilms. But biofilms also are broken down by strong aromatics, strong herbs with volatile oil qualities, because it is an oil that also have an antimicrobial action as well. So for him as well, indicated but might not be needed were neem powder. That is also a biofilm disruptor. There's also clove and also garlic.
He really reacts to the clove and garlic essential oils.
Yeah, I've put, don't give him raw garlic and don't give him clove and don't give him oregano oil. His gut cannot cope with it. It's too strong. So for him, I think it's cinnamon, rosemary, thyme and apple cider vinegar. But I've highlighted, don't give him oregano oil, despite what anybody tells you, it's too strong. Don't give him clove and don't give him raw garlic. It's too strong. His tummy is too weak to cope with it, and it will probably make it worse. He'll probably end up having an episode. Yeah.
Okay. So is it okay to continue with the essential oils? He doesn't. He just inhales and he goes really deep with them.
Yeah, that's fine if he's inhaling them, and if he's selecting them himself, then I would say that's indicated. But I wouldn't be putting those like in for ingestion yourself. Definitely for those ones. Only after that biofilm has been disrupted and eliminated from his system in like ordinary reality, in his ordinary world, can you then bring in those mucosal repair ones? Because at the minute there's this film that's just protecting his gut, and it's not a good film. It's not nice because it just means his gut's not working properly. But after that, herbs that are indicated for him would be plantain. I've put Althea officinalis, but I've only put the leaf at this stage. He doesn't need the root. He doesn't need any probiotics or prebiotics at this stage. It's just too soon. Also indicated was calendula, which we're giving, and chamomile. and also, dare I say it, slippery elm. Like, I don't like the use of slippery elm, but I think the amount of dysfunction in his gut, he's one of the few cases that I would indicate it for. But again, not yet. Like, slippery elm is indicated after the biofilm, after you tried plantain, after you've done calendula. Like, it's on the very bottom of that list. Probably towards the end of summer, I would say you're looking at providing slippery elm, because we need to get rid of that biofilm in the first instance. So as you probably can imagine, like, all of the drying and astringing herbs are indicated for this horse. Because his gut is pockmarked, we really need to tighten it up. Like, we need to dry it out, and it's so wet inside. Like, energetically, I've done a lot of work to dry it up, but it's only going to last as long as we can get going on that herbal journey. So the drying herbs are really, really indicated for him. Anything that's astringing, anything that's going to dry him up a little bit. Not only that, we need to remember that that mucosa underneath is only producing mucosa to protect the lining. So we also need to work to protect that lining at the same time. And that's where things like chamomile and calendula will work in conjunction with those drying herbs as well. Indicated for him, nettle came through really, really strongly. Like, he showed me a picture of you just strimming down loads of nettles everywhere, and him just having like a complete feast. Agrimony is also indicated. Direct from the hedgerow, if you can find a source of agrimony, he really, really wants to do that. And incidentally, agrimony is a specific for irritable bowel disease as well. So colitis, IBD, diverticulitis stuff. And also yarrow. I don't use yarrow particularly for gut stuff, but it came through for him as being like one of the better ones, the better astringing, drying, wound healing kind of herbs to use on his gut. You could also use the potentials of chamomile, not for him, but for other people. Licorice root might be indicated. Aloe vera came through, but not for him, because for me, it's like substituting one biofilm for another. Now, I know aloe vera is absorbed into the gut lining and stuff like that, but it still gave me the impression that it was just going to cause another barrier. And it's like he doesn't need any more barriers in his gut. He needs to actually get on and hear what's going on in there. And also came through green tea, like matcha tea, matcha powder, really strongly indicated for drying out his gut too. Herbs that we want to restore his microbiota. That's not going to happen until the autumn, like just late autumn at the most for him. Mostly because of the work that's got to be done, but also because it then brings him into seasonal alignment, because all of the herbs that you're going to find over the summer now are going to be high in volatile oils. They're going to be antimicrobial, and they're going to be drying and astringing. So you're going to be, you've like luckily lucked into the herbs and at the right time as well. And then by the time autumn comes, it will be the 3 months of, okay, he's been on these herbs for 3 months, now it's time to change. And by that point, I think you'll be looking at restoring some of his gut flora, because with any luck, we'd have killed off that biofilm. So in the autumn, herbs that are going to be indicated for that are going to be really simple herbs that came through with dandelion root, chicory root, and elecampane, like 3 of the best herbs for pre and probiotics. So it really made sense to come in the autumn for those as well. On top of that, you also need to be providing supportive herbs for detoxification. There were only a few that came through for him because I didn't want to overwhelm his liver. Like, he's got enough to do on healing his gut. I don't want too much to do for his liver. So milk thistle came through, which is quite a nice one. Red clover as well came through to support like the lymph and detox pathways to help with elimination, to keep his immune system up and balanced. And then also, which I thought was really funny, lots and lots of barley grass and lots of wheatgrass because they support detoxification pathways, which you're doing anyway. And also spirulina came in and chlorella, but you're doing that with the seaweed, which is interesting because I got those two coming through for nutritional support, but also to assist detoxification too. So that made sense to me. Antioxidants are hugely indicated in the removal of biofilms within the gut. However, antioxidants mostly make themselves known in autumn, like they're the roots and the berries and the seeds that you see in the forage. And I do think there are enough antioxidants in this plan that I've given in terms of the wheatgrass, the barley grass, and all the herbs as well that we mentioned. I mean, green tea is one of the strongest antioxidants that you can find as well. And if you can get hold of any moringa, that's another one. So all of those green powders that you're giving are already high in antioxidants. So you just want to keep doing that, keep doing that, keep doing that. Another one that's also high in antioxidants is the berberine. So I think there's probably enough going through his system, to be honest, that we can wait for any more antioxidants, certainly until the autumn again as well. So this is just like a rough healing guide for him about what you need to do. And then just as I was coming out, my shamanic guy, the Amazonian guy who has no face, he pulled down an oak leaf and he handed it to Paddy and he ate it. And then I was just like, oh my God, of course, why not trees? Your horse needs trees at the minute. Like your horse needs oak, he needs birch, he needs willow, he needs anything with like a drying, tanning action. And you're going to get those from trees. Like trees have them all. And ash in the autumn was also specifically indicated for him. When the leaves start to fall, find an ash tree, gather them up, and then just let him eat loads and loads of them. So if you can find a tree that he's allowed to eat the bark from, or you've got a branch that's been taken down, you can put in the field, that might be really beneficial, especially oak, because it's so dry.
He is eating lots of oak leaves when I'm out hacking at the moment. And I was taking that he needed the tannins.
Yeah, it's been, I mentioned this the other day to my group, that I thought that all horses across the UK are eating loads and loads of oak at the minute and tannin rich herbs. Because you've had such a dry spring, there's not so much water content in all the forage as there normally is. So in order to increase digestive enzymes, they need something that's bitter and tannin rich, and that's what oak does. So as soon as they nibble on it, it increases digestive enzymes. So it helps with assimilation and moving food through the body as well, because it increases bile production. So I think all horses are particularly keen on oak at the minute, and those tannin rich ones, just to help with peristalsis.
Sorry, Rachel, would samphoin pellets help him then as a high in tannins?
I haven't checked in with him on them. I don't think so. No,
Okay,
he's shaking.
that's fine.
That's a no. I wouldn't. No. I just, because he needs the fiber as well from the forage. Yeah, but I think anything that's kind of concentrated and put into a pellet is going to make his digestive system work twice as hard as it needs to. And at the minute, it just needs to get digesting forage right.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, so we're going to break down the biofilm, going to restore gut integrity, and then we're going to work to restore the microbiota. It's really simple, isn't it? Really simple. It's never that simple. This is going to be a continual cycle for him. The longer a gut dysfunction has been going on, the longer it's going to take to restore it. It may not be restored in 1 year. It might take 2. But I think if you do follow that seasonal pattern of going, okay, in summer we can give him those drying, astringing tannins, and you might have to then go in again and put in some biofilm disruptors, like consistently every, I don't know, maybe for a week every few months, just so they don't grow and keep going back. I don't know yet if that's the case. We might be able to get rid of it in one go. I don't know how persistent it is. I don't know how strong it's going to be. All I can say is that that's what needs to be done, and we've done that energetically as well. So we'll see again in 3 months where he is. So go with the summer ones. And then in the autumn, you're definitely going to be looking at restoring that microbiota with the pre and probiotics and the antioxidants that you're going to get in the forage. Then in winter, we're just going to let his tummy have a rest. We're going to work on removing inflammation from his bloods and cleaning his bloods and just letting his body repair a little bit, just being really still and quiet and just repairing. So that in spring, when all the sugars come through next year, he'll be in a better position to assimilate what's coming out in the forage and the grass and the hay. And yeah, and hopefully he doesn't have a water syndrome, fecal water syndrome. But we won't know until we go through the process of him just selecting and you just taking him and giving him the opportunity to have a go in the forage. there is a question mark that came up because many of my students here actually will know that innate selection, self-selection, zoopharmacognosy will only work if receptors in the gut are working properly. Like the horse will only select what it needs at that moment in time. So while he has got fecal water syndrome, and the primary issue that we've got here is a biofilm problem, is a gut disruptor. If he has got a spasm in his gut, he's going to select antispasmodic herbs. Also that came in was cramp bark for him, but in the autumn. So he could select cramp bark because he has a spasm in the gut, but that's not going to have any effect on the biofilm, which is the primary issue. So I think there is some work to do in terms of disrupting that biofilm in the first instance, whether that's through you giving him herbs or offering them. I don't know, that's something we'll have to discuss in the background, but just so you know, and so that everybody else knows, that in order for innate selection to work, that gut has to be in the optimum position it can absolutely be in. But that doesn't say that he's not going to select them either. That's just to say that that's a consideration. Given what you've told me he's selecting already, I think he's trying to do it himself. I think he is trying to do it himself. But I think you just need to learn the diversity that you can give him and be guided a bit more on why you're what you're giving him. And then we'll take it from there. So yeah, that's where we're going to go.
It's quite exciting.
It is. Do you know what interesting is that he was so excited about it too. I was so pleased to see, because he's just super eager, super keen to do that. So I was like, yeah, why not? Yeah. Let's do it.
Oh,
there you go.
He's here now. He's come over to say hello.
Oh, good. I'm glad he has, so everyone can see him. Right, I'm just going to turn off the pin. Oh, I've got to. Is Sue still here? Let me remove that pin. Oh no, I don't want to remove Karen. Does anyone know how I do that?
Remove. You just need to top right-hand corner of your picture and remove pin.
Yeah, it's my picture.
Yeah, and then you'll leave Karen there still.
How do I show non-video participants?
Yeah.
Thank you, Sue. Amazing. There you go, folks. I hope that was helpful. That was a long dive into communication and shamanic stuff and herbs. Karen, do you have any questions, or does anyone else have questions?
Not at the moment. I think I'm overloaded.
There's a lot to take in. I have written it all down for you, which is why you don't need to write it all down.
But I must admit, I do feel better about it, because I find that it affects me more than him. I get really frustrated because I think, why can't I find something to help him? And whatever I tried, never did. I have had few months where he's had no fecal water, and that could be possibly when he's been out on the grass. But then all of a sudden it come back, and I'm thinking, what can I do to help this horse? It's
a difficult one, because sugar is indicated, food is indicated. Like if he has an influx of sugar, because it is linked to bacteria, an influx of sugar, and we don't know what sugars are in everything they eat. It's impossible for us to be able to tell that. He might go out and gorge on something that is just high in sugar and we just didn't know about it. And that is going to cause an issue with disrupting some of the gut flora. But for me, the biggest thing was working with this biofilm. Like, it came through so clearly. It was quite vile. It was quite vile and quite disgusting. And I think that's why some of the herbs have not been working historically. I think that maybe some stuff's not been working historically, because if you wrap something in cling film, like, it's just not going to work. It's just going to flow through, and you are going to end up with fecal water syndrome. but you've hit it at the right time, because the herbs that are out there are all indicated for fecal water syndrome. So yeah, that's where I would go. I would start attacking it there first and see where you go from there. But
Yeah.
I also think if you've tried those herbs in the past that were indicated for biofilms, I think they were just too strong. Like you say, the oregano, the clove, and the garlic, then yeah, it's a tricky one.
It's funny looking at him now. He's just turned away to give me his bum, but his back legs are dry at the moment, which he hasn't had for a while.
Good, because he's probably given it to me, which is why I woke up this morning with IBS.
Apologies for that.
I don't need to go and have a rest and just like sit down and relax my tummy. So Sarah says her spirit animal is a snow leopard. That's lovely. Mine's a mole. I really wanted something fantastic, Sarah. I wanted an eagle or a jaguar, and I ended up with a mole. But I've also got a deer, and I do have a jaguar as well, but I can't work with my jaguar at the minute. She's feisty. So I've had a few come in to help, which is lovely, and I use them interchangeably depending on what's needed. Alison says she loves moles. I love moles now too, Alison. But I have to say, I was really expecting something like amazing. Thank you. Right, if no one's got any questions, then are you all right? If you wanted to speak out, you can. And I'll just share the recording for everybody so you can catch up with it there. Okay, folks. Are you all good? Yeah, good. Okay, they're all being really quiet today. What's going on with everybody? Everybody normally talks. Thank you anyway. Thank you so much, Karen. That's been really interesting. It's been really interesting from my point of view, particularly with the biofilm one. I've not had that before, so something to work with, something to work on.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
I'd have given you the notes. Sarah says she's written down 4 pages. I'd have given you the notes. It's fine. Yeah, and I'll catch up with you in Herbal Shenanigans, which starts next
week. Yes, we'll do.
Next day, 8 o'clock live, and I'll see a lot of you there. Oriel, Cherie, Abigail, there's a few, yeah. Okay, everybody, have a lovely evening, and I will catch up soon.
Thank you.
Iridology, oh, that's a good one. Yeah, it'd be interesting to, sorry, Oriel does iridology as well. She's in the group. She does some quite good stuff with iridology. Okay, cool. Take care, everybody. I'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.